The story begins by asking if you want to experience a realistic second life. The game God of the Imperial Kingdom perfectly simulates life in a virtual world. There you can embark on extremely dangerous adventures and battles, as well as experience the freedom of flying. You can also become a bald man with a shiny head and marry a beautiful woman. The game's helmet is so advanced that users even experience improved health. At this moment, our protagonist, who is in a wheelchair, is watching something about the game. The TV announces that a new world will open its doors to those who start playing. And all our boy hopes for is that all these promises are true. His name is Lu Chen, and he lives with his sister. His future was already secured with a great job and salary he had. However, an accident completely changed his life. The impact was so severe that it even left a knight-shaped scar. Because of this, his sister spent everything she had just to save his life. The problem is that, in the end, he can no longer walk and has become a burden to the family. Everyone feels sorry for his sister because basically her future now involves taking care of a disabled person. Hearing these things obviously didn't do any good for the boy's mental state. He never wanted to be a burden to his family. At the moment when he was considering logging out of life, he saw the advertisement for this game. What caught his attention the most was that, due to neural healing, some people even regained the ability to walk. Even people who had lost that ability managed to recover 100%. That's why he decided not to log out and give this new thing a chance. The scene shifts to his home. His sister left some food and sent him a message. She mentioned that she would work some extra hours so he didn't need to wait for her. He barely had any money, and she even had to go into debt just to buy this second-hand helmet. All he hopes is that it doesn't disappoint him. As soon as the game begins, a fully digital waifu appears, welcoming our boy. She asks him to choose a nickname. It seems our boy is already pumped up in this place. He chooses the name Only I Am Savage. She then says that the first place he will appear is in the Mortal Kingdom and tells him to enjoy everything there. And then he wonders why his character looks like this. He looks down and sees two paws and hadn't heard anything about this in the game. As far as he knows, there should have been some kind of customization. But why does he have wolf claws? If the game's goal was to kill a bunch of beasts, why did he become a savage beast? He curses the heavens and demands to see this darn system. That's when he sees his name, Only I Am Savage, with the class of a weak werewolf. The only talent he has is a werewolf lineage that slightly increases his critical chance. Our boy is devastated. Not only is he incredibly weak, but he's also a savage beast. However, that's when he remembers an important detail. He was standing, moving his legs just like in his real body. And at that moment, he starts running. The boy enjoys it so much that he even lets out a howl. That's when someone points and says there's a savage beast to hunt. Oh boy, I imagined they were dangerous adventurers, but not that this was the danger. The girls comment that that werewolf is ugly as heck. The poor guy is done for being called ugly by the first player he met, but at least he thinks the clothes in this game aren't that ugly. However, the girls start running, saying they know a werewolf's club sells for 300 coins. One of them goes to punch Wu Chen, who still doesn't understand what's happening. However, he decides to defend himself and deals 3 damage to her. At that moment, all the girls surround him and start fighting our boy, who is now in a 4-1. But he knows he's in the werewolf base, so soon they should come to help. With that, the group starts approaching the girls. They realize they're surrounded and have put themselves in a risky situation. The poor girls are all beaten up, and Lu Chen is just waiting for the right moment to get a kill. As soon as one of them has low health, he hits her on the back. He kills a level 1 player, gaining some experience and a few items. He quickly gets excited, realizing that being a savage beast allows him to make money by killing players. And with that, he takes advantage of their weakened state and starts farming the girls. The best part is that he's picking up a bunch of items they had bought, so he won't even have to spend his own money. One thing he notices, though, is that his reputation doesn't seem to be increasing. It seems he can't rank up, but he can still increase his stats and level up. He knows, however, that people should only have talent after choosing a class. But as a savage beast, not only does he already have talent, but he also deals more damage than other players. Maybe being a wild creature isn't so bad, and he decides to test it on his friend. He gives him a blow to the head to see if the other werewolves will attack him. The poor guys all run away, and he goes frantically farming. He's running low on mana, so he drinks the girl's potion. And with that, he continues killing his fellow men boy and hasn't lost his own race. The rascal not only manages to farm players, but also monsters, and he decides it's time to wipe out his race. 15 minutes later, he's significantly boosted his stats. He's all excited, saying he never expected this game to be so realistic, until someone yells saying they found a pervert. Lu Chen looks back and is startled. This time, it really is a perverted and dangerous guy. The man in front says it's incredible that when you hit someone with low health, their clothes start to fall apart. The girl says it's just a game and tells them to stop that. Outside, the secretary advises her that it's better to log out of the game. However, she replies that she can't do that because she'll be penalized. She signed a contract to promote this game, so she can't quit and must keep going. The guy mentions that this game uses people's real bodies and asks if she's really real. But then a little wolf approaches, and Lu Chen lands a blow on the guy's neck. He turns around to see what it is and wonders why a werewolf is attacking him like this. The rest of the group immediately orders to eliminate it. However, Lu Chen strikes another one in the head, who wonders how a level 1 creature can be so strong. Obviously, he's abusing his talent and using mana potions to recover. In this way, killing these beginners isn't difficult at all. He finishes off the guys, but the only problem is that they didn't have anything special. The girl's name is Ling Jui, and she wonders why a werewolf is helping her. She approaches and hands over some potions, saying she wanted to thank him. The smart girl made the right choice because he was already planning to kill her too. He thanks her and takes them, and she's confused that this werewolf can actually talk. Meanwhile, the secretary asks how the game is going and tells her that the promotion is about to start. She says she understands and will log out to prepare. Lin is already running through the forest. He knows this area is near the beginners and he doesn't want to become the target of a larger group. For now, he's going to stay away and focus on killing other creatures. Since he turned into a beast as soon as he entered the game, he has no idea how things are progressing. So he decides to check out the promotional video. There he sees Ling Ji making an announcement about how the game has just started and the beginner area already has over 8,000 players. He had no idea she was so famous and that there were so many players in that area. Indeed, the wildlife is much better since he can keep killing without anyone disturbing him. And with that, he goes back to hunting his own race once again. Killing these creatures has allowed him to collect 10 talent items, and he's finally about to level up to 2. Now his critical chance increases from 3% to 6%. He's all happy, saying this isn't bad at all, and decides to see what else he can evolve. Now instead of needing 10 items, he'll need 100. He already knows this means he'll have to find stronger creatures so he doesn't have to kill so many weak ones. He finds a few more level 1 werewolves and easily wipes them out. Finally, his normal level reaches 2 and gets a small boost in each stat. The problem is that he didn't get a talent boost or any item. This means he needs to start killing stronger things. He spots a buffed up werewolf and knows that's what he needs. He decides to try his luck, knowing that even though the guy is bigger than him, he still has a higher level. With that, he deals 8 damage, but the guy deals 12. He quickly realizes it won't be that easy, and for 5 minutes, the boy keeps using potions and fighting the beast. Finally, he kills it and receives a talent upgrade item as well as 20 experience points. Of course, he knows he only managed it because he had all those potions from the players. But now he's excited because he knows exactly how he'll level up his talents. And suddenly, a club appears in his hand. It's a gray quality item, which is pretty bad, but still better than his level 0 one. He remembers the girls talking about selling it for 300 yuan and decides to check it out. He doesn't see many in the shop and decides to list it for $35. Since the game has just started, he knows it's not possible to make much money yet. With that, he closes the system and wants to return to hunting. But instantly, a window pops up with a new message. The club has been sold, and he's about to receive the money. He then says to check the messages on his phone. The system shows that he really received the payment from the sale. He's already excited because he's finally not going to be the loser brother anymore. It seems everyone was right, and this is a golden opportunity. Of course, he immediately returns to hunting, and the greatest enemy of the werewolves doesn't stop killing his own race. 20 minutes later, he's already getting tired of hunting them. He's reached level 3 and his stats have increased. The problem now is that these level 1 creatures aren't giving him experience or items anymore. This means it's time to move on to level 2. He already knows where each creature spawns, and as soon as one appears, he's there to kill it. He takes a hit from a club that deals 9 damage, and he finds it strange that this level 2 beast is weaker than that big guy he killed who was level 1. That's when he realizes this beast attacks much faster. It seems that this creature is focused on agility, but for him, it doesn't matter since he can easily beat them all. With that, he easily kills the level 1 creatures and also manages to kill 2 level 2 creatures at the same time. 40 minutes later, he's building a pile. He opens the status window to check how things are going. His talent has leveled up again, and now he has a 10% critical chance. That's not bad at all, especially considering that other players don't even have talents yet. In addition, every time he levels up, he can choose a stat in strength, agility, or more resistance. For now, he's only choosing strength since it's so easy to land his attacks. And as soon as he picks this stat, he notices that his body has undergone a slight change. What's odd is that every time he chooses a stat, he gets another name added to the front, and now it's getting ridiculously long. After hunting for a while, he decides to sell all 5 clubs for $40 each. He's also reached level 4, so it's time to advance further into this forest. Once again, he receives a message. Everything he sold was purchased instantly, earning him over $200 in a matter of minutes. He gets excited, saying he's going to buy new clothes for his sister. One of the people who bought one of those clubs was Ling Jai. What she finds strange is why this Only the Savage has so many for sale. She opens the player window in the region, and at the moment, no one with that name is there. Even searching through the top 500, she can't find it. She concludes that he must be using another account to transfer the items for sale. At that moment, the secretary tells her to start the live stream. On the live stream, she shows that the level 1 werewolf area is so crowded, it's hard to hunt anything. Everyone is complaining that they've been in the game for 2 hours and still can't leave the beginner area. The girl even jokes that there are so many people around that she might get pregnant just from being squished. Ling Ji then gives a tip on the live stream to buy a club to help form the werewolves faster and get out of that place. Now, Lu Chen understands why this stuff is selling like hotcakes. However, for him, it's perfect. There are plenty of level 4 beasts, and he's going to farm them all. With that, he continues acquiring talent points and experience. His progression is so good that even creatures a level above aren't that difficult anymore, and he easily defeats a level 5 agile werewolf. At that moment, he receives another new club and decides to take a look. But this time, it's an S rank 1 filled with stats. It's not very strong because it's a beginner item, but even so, it's very rare. Considering the amount of power it delivers, it's practically a steal for a level 1 player. The question is, how much should he sell it for? He decides to check the forum for some opinions. He posts about the stats and asks how much he should sell it for. Of course, everyone says it's a lie or that he should sell it for $1 million because it doesn't even exist. Lu Chen realizes that no one is helping him at all. But then he stops to think that it's the first day and only today will this item be worth anything. He then decides to create an auction where people can bid starting at $1,000 or buy it immediately for $1,800. With that, he closes the window and imagines that maybe in half an hour it should sell. A girl already comments about a club being sold for $1,000. Meanwhile, Lu Chen is farming and receiving more items. The problem is that it's getting hard to find strong creatures, so he decides to look around. Suddenly, he gets all excited and says that this, yes, looks impressive. A level 6 werewolf with exceptional agility. He's already thrilled, saying this is going to be good. And now the damage exchange is much more balanced. However, with increased attack and critical talent, every now and then he crushes the beast. Unlike the others, this one gave 2 talent-enhancing items. The moon was already in the sky, and he was now a werewolf with exceptional agility and strength. Excited about how much he had evolved on the first day, he decides to check his status. The werewolf bloodline is already at level 3 with a 14% critical chance. The only problem is that his name is so long that he can't even hide behind a tree without it sticking out on both sides. However, he's tired, it's been a productive day, and it's time to log out for a bit. He got 9 more normal clubs and decides to sell each one for $300. He's eager to tell Lu Yi that he's now making money and can support the family. Finally, he's back. And the first thing he notices is that his arm feels different, as if part of his senses are returning. It seems that today's purchase was really worth it. That's when he hears the door opening. Once again, she had worked late into the night. She enters exhausted, saying she took a little longer. She immediately mentions that she made quite a bit of money, and he asks why she smells like alcohol. She says it was a celebration because her company seems to be merging with the Imperial God's Kingdom Company. And apparently, she was promoted to a department leader and will now earn much more. She sits on his lap and he tells her to get off, saying she's going crazy. That's when, as always, the secret is revealed. They're not really siblings. Lu Chen says that's why they have to be careful with each other. However, she says she doesn't care about that since she's decided to take care of him forever. Our boy, feeling suffocated, can't say anything. This is bullying, man. The kid is paralyzed and can only lie there on the ground. She says the game is getting famous and many people are going to get rich. And as one of the people involved in this project, she's going to make a lot of money and take care of our boy. Lu Chen tries to explain that he's doing well in the game and maybe she doesn't need to work so hard. However, she's already drunk and has fallen asleep. He thinks that if she's involved in the game project, maybe they can play together. Or better yet, maybe she'll know secrets that no one else does. The next day, he wakes up to a message from her saying she left early in the morning. Lu Chen can't help but think that she's really grown up. And upon entering the game, he's excited because he might have made over $500 overnight. Lin Ji is doing a live stream saying that the game is very difficult and that she has only managed to reach level 3. Most of the stronger players are already at level 5 and she's only not further behind because of that club. She then mentions that the players selling these items must be someone from the beta who already knows the secrets. Lu Chen thinks she is very kind and he should give her some money later since she is the one helping him sell so much. Since he was watching a live stream, he decides to donate 66 yuan as a thank you. At that moment, she realizes that the guy she was talking about was watching her live stream. Meanwhile, our boy is, as usual, wiping out his fellow werewolves. He has now become a level 7 jackal with exceptional talents. The only problem is that, as always, his name keeps getting longer. He's already thinking that soon it will be visible from 800 meters away. However, that's when he spots an elite creature with a cool name. The leader of the jackal men called Zuckus. The problem is that he's followed by 10 elite creatures and Lu Chen knows he can't defeat them alone. He quickly tries to come up with a plan. All he has in storage are 17 clubs, which are currently useless. That's when he remembers a detail. In the reputation shop, there's a recruitment badge for the order. Basically, you can summon a creature, but it has to be weaker than you. If it dies, no one gains experience, but you get the shield back. To recruit, you have to engage in a one-on-one fight and defeat the creature without anyone interfering. He finds it strange that the item's name has a square mark, yet it only recruits one. However, since it only costs 10 reputation points, he decides to check it out. That's when he sees that upgrading its quality will cost 500 points. With no other option because he needs to get stronger, he decides to sell everything he has for reputation points. and with that, he manages to upgrade the item to level 3. He then activates it and does the recruitment test, which basically requires him to defeat the creatures. Of course, he easily finishes them off. Now he has 3 werewolf minions, but they're all weak. He spends some attributes and gives the clubs he has to these minions to make them stronger. With that, his entire group begins hunting other werewolves. I can hardly tell who's who here, but our boy is feeling like a captain, ordering his minions to attack. One of them hits a mini-boss that deals more than 50 damage. Our boy commands the other 2 to help distract the boss. With the help of his army, he gradually kills the boss. After much effort, and with everyone's health low, they finally defeat it. They also obtain 3 fragments to upgrade his talent, a level 5 shoulder armor, a level 1 grade chestplate, and a green quality smashing club. Obviously, the rascal gets all excited since it's the first non-gray item he's seen. Compared to the others, the amount of attributes is much higher. Now he doesn't know whether to sell it or use it. He starts giving orders to his wolves to hunt the people around. While one of his werewolves is recovering, he decides to check out the live streams. Lingji is talking about reaching level 10 and unlocking professions for players, which makes the game much more fun. However, the friends around her say she's thinking too far ahead. After all, the strongest players are still at level 5. Lingji then replies that they should create a guild to recruit more members and level up faster. Several guilds have already been formed with the names of famous companies. Lu Chen just thinks that this game is becoming more unbelievable by the minute. 8 hours later, someone wakes him up. He realizes that it took 8 hours for the werewolf who died in the fight to resurrect, and he's a bit shocked by the time. He then decides it's time to buy new equipment, get prepared, and face that monster. However, that's when he notices that he's at level 8. He asks the werewolves if they really kept hunting the whole time while he was sleeping. He quits everything, saying that this was indeed the best choice. Now that he's fully geared up, that guy is no longer a threat. The scene shifts to the defeated monster, and it was much easier than he expected. Moreover, he obtains several items. He checks his minions' inventory to see if they're carrying anything. The rascals had already collected more than 20 clubs while he was sleeping. Obviously, as more people level up, these items are losing value, but they can still be quite profitable. The question is, how much should he sell this level 5 green club for? He lists them in the shop and immediately receives a sale notification. Seeing that he can still make a profit, he orders everyone to go back to hunting. He checks the forum and sees that people are starting to talk about him. Everyone wants to know who this Only I Am Savage is. Taking advantage of the conversation, he asks how much they think a green item is worth. One guy says around $5,000, while the others just talk nonsense. He creates an auction with a starting bid of $1,000 and a buy-up price of $5,000. Immediately, one of Lingji's friends calls her to check out the shop. They see that it's from the same person as before, and the secretary suggests that she try to add this guy as a friend. Lingji feels a bit shy, but says it might be a good idea. She tells her to keep an eye out, and as soon as this guy joins the live stream, to let her know because she'll try to add him as a friend. Meanwhile, Lu Chen is busy killing werewolves, trying to reach level 9. 2.5 hours later, he succeeds, but it took 50,000 experience points. From level 9 to 10 will require 100,000, which is almost insane to him. However, his attack has already reached 60, and he has more than 1,150 health. That's when he sees his little wolves lying on the ground and an item in the middle of them. He approaches and sees that it's 15 healing potions. However, he then notices a trail of potions leading towards the bushes. He doesn't even worry about it and starts picking everything up, thinking he's going to make a good profit. Suddenly, he comes face to face with some players who are sure they've found the boss of this area. One of them says to be careful as he's armed with shoulder pads and a weapon in hand, so he must be very strong. Our boy starts wondering if he really looks like a boss, but before he can finish his thought, the players are already charging at him, saying they're going to make a lot of money. The girl asks if the leader is sure, and he replies that if the savage can do it, so can they. With that, he charges forward, telling them not to be afraid. He lands a solid blow on Lu Chen's head, which takes away just 1 HP. The guy is a bit confused, saying that with his strength, that shouldn't have happened. Everyone in the group starts questioning how many times they'll have to hit this boss to kill him. A very friendly girl named Bai Ruyu tells them to calm down because they have plenty of potions. They decide to keep hitting him, hoping that eventually he'll die. Our boy is standing there, realizing that this seems to be the minimum amount of damage anyone can deal. He just can't understand why they are so motivated, thinking they can defeat him like this. However, since they think he's a monster, he's going to have to play the part. He delivers the first crushing blow, taking 52 health from the first player. A strike to the ribs removes 100 and the guy can't believe it. He's thrown to the side and quickly drinks a potion. The group starts formulating a plan since each potion recovers 10 health over 10 seconds. They decide to send in those with full health while the injured recover. However, one swing of Lu Chen's club sends everyone running. The girl, now desperate, tells the captain that this isn't going to work. But Lu Chen says it's too late and no one is going to escape. With that, he starts taking everyone out. The rascal managed to collect 27 potions just from that girl alone. Now that everyone has experienced his strength, no one will bother him and he can continue farming alone. The scene shifts to a meeting in a company called Jiangxing Technology. It seems that everyone that was playing that game and spending money, but they were all wiped out by our big bad wolf. However, the boss tells them not to lose hope because now they just need to get stronger and kill that boss later. What he wants to know is how the only I Am Savage managed to kill that guy. There were so many notifications that his head is still hurting, but he's excited since he has more than $3,500 in the bank. In addition, he's receiving lots of emails from people wanting him to join their guild or sell them some items. He replies to everyone that he won't be adding any friends and that when he's selling something, he'll let them know. He closes the window because it's time to start leveling up again. 8 hours later, he finally reaches level 10 and has obtained 28 clubs. His monster reputation has reached 38, but he hasn't managed to upgrade his bloodline. He sees that the reputation shop now has a skins tab, and he wonders if he'll be able to change his appearance. However, the available skin is for a werewolf. It offers a quest where if you kill multiple werewolves, you can obtain the bloodline. Lu Chen wonders if it's possible to combine the two into one, or if, for example, he could transform into another monster. Or the most interesting thing for him would be to transform into a human. He clicks on the martial arts icon and sees that he can now receive something called humanization, which strengthens attack and defense. One of them requires meditating for a while to receive this attribute. The other requires 1,000 recovery points and killing wild monsters to gain their powers. After some time cultivating, he finally unlocks the so-called mana. Now it's time to list more items and put things up for auction. Meanwhile, the girls are exhausted because it's going to take a long time for them to reach level 7. That's when the secretary says that the only I Am Savage just joined the live stream with ID 9527. Ling Ji then tells everyone that the live stream is amazing and that she's going to give a gift to someone at random. Of course, number 9527 is the winner. The guy is still in shock, saying that this is an incredible coincidence. However, when she sends a friend request to deliver the item, he tells her to give it to another fan. She says that he has to accept his fate, but he replies that he's not really interested. He's already asking what she wants so that he doesn't have to accept the item while she insists on giving it to him. She says all she wants is a picture of him using the club. Our boy imagines that this picture would be terrifying. The problem is that this girl seems nice and he wants to help her out a bit. He agrees to accept the gift but says he won't take the picture, and she says that's fine. She then adds him as a friend to the only I Am Savage, and she announces to everyone on the live stream that the only I Am Savage is the first person to reach level 10 and enter the main city. Our boy feels a bit embarrassed to take the reward and removes her from his friend list. At least she mentioned that the path to the main city is open, so he should encounter new creatures. With that, he finds the poisonous Miss Forest. The system notifies him that he has left the beginner area. He's all excited, wondering if he should run through or face everything in his path. Then something catches his attention. As soon as he entered, he was attacked by a swarm of spiders and a level 9 boss. He decides to face her head-on and lets his minions deal with the smaller ones. The problem is that he's been poisoned. However, at least the damage isn't that high. 3 minutes later, he had cleared the entire area. He even received a white mist bracelet. It's part of a set of equipment that gradually increases his poison resistance. This place is really full of poisonous stuff, and before he can leave the area, he's already being attacked again. 5 minutes later, he's still stuck in the same spot. He kills one and more appear, and the worst part is that his minions aren't recovering. The next scene shows him in his room saying it was a very exhausting day, and he barely managed to get out of that place. That's when he notices that the arm that barely moved before now seems to be a little more agile. His finger was still a bit stiff, but that was already great progress. He then receives a call from his sister, who says she won't be able to come home now. Apparently, the company team she joined needs to get used to the game, and she'll have to stay there until everyone reaches level 6. Our boy, however, tells her not to worry because he has a surprise for her when she comes home. She wants to know what it is, but he says he'll only tell her when she's there. Our boy is all happy, thinking that maybe soon he'll be 100% healed. The next day, there he is again, facing the spiders. The problem hadn't gone away. The numbers seemed almost infinite, and he couldn't advance in the forest. One of his minions even got killed. A while later, 2 more are defeated, and he's fleeing, drinking potions to avoid dying. With that, he returns and takes out the spiders that killed his friends. But now he's outside, mourning the loss of his companions. He decides he's going to have to spend all of his reputation, buy items, and strengthen everyone so they can return to that place. The next day, everyone was back taking down those spiders. This time, he finally encountered the true elite boss. Before he could do anything, she was already charging at him. However, he was well-equipped and confident. Half an hour later, they finally managed to take her down. With that, she was defeated and he received 2 more items from that set. Indeed, a level 10 boss did not disappoint in the rewards. He got the gloves from that set, which also increased poison resistance. And of course the necklace, which he had to equip. The boy was all decked out, saying it's now easier than ever to farm elite creatures. The problem is that, as always, the creatures were respawning extremely quickly. However, now that he was stronger, this was good news since he would obtain many more items. And with that, he immediately went after the spiders. A while later, his name was even longer than usual. and his talent had increased, now with a 19% critical chance. Because he had killed over 1,000 spiders, he could purchase their talent to apply poison. Now every one of his attacks reduced the target's health by 1% per second for 5 seconds. He decided to level up that talent because it would be useful against high health creatures, and immediately started spending more reputation to raise it to level 3. With that, the talent now drained 2.5% of health. However, now he looked odd with half a werewolf body and half a spider body. The advantage was that he was much faster in terms of movement, but he definitely needed a skin to change this ridiculous appearance. It had been a productive day, and it was time to log out again. The people who always buy his items were sad because today he didn't put anything up for sale. But he wasn't in the mood. He would only sell the poison resistances when people reached that region. And then he sees that people are already at the werewolf boss area, so soon they'll reach the forest. In the game, people are taking down that boss, but Ling Ji tells everyone to be careful. She motivates the group, saying that if they kill that creature, they'll be the strongest group on the server. But then the secretary tells her to look to the side. There was a giant monster saying he was coming to save Zakas. The group didn't know why that monster's name was so big or why it was so fast. They tried to come up with strategies for each one to protect themselves and use potions. But one guy jumped in and said the big name was funny. It's just a shame it would die so easily. Obviously, the attack dealt less than 1 damage. And the 2 girls saw that he had more than 2,000 health, so they had no chance at all. But the guys remained excited, telling everyone not to panic, saying it must just be a tank, until they took a hit to the chest. A strike from the spider's claw dealt 60 damage and also applied poison. The guys were in shock. Their friend, who had 250 health, disappeared in an instant. Lu Chen just yelled, asking what they were waiting for. And then the chaos began, with everyone being thrown around. The guys still wanted to fight, but their friends were ready to give up and flee the place. Ling Ji was there, and it was a pity, but Lu Chen wasn't going to let her escape alive. He hit her with a 94-point strike. The poor girl was still losing 60 points from the continuous poison. Our boy was all excited. He had managed to get a ton of potions. Now that all the players had been scared off, he had bought himself some more time to continue leveling up. Meanwhile, in the city, everyone was talking about how terrifying that creature was. They couldn't understand how the strongest group on the server had been wiped out in just a few minutes. Because of this, some were even discouraged and wanted to quit the game. Everyone was telling Ling to try to talk to the guy who reached level 10 and ask how he defeated that thing. She didn't want to. Everyone was calling her a goddess and begging her to do it. So she received a message from him asking exactly how to kill Zakas. Lu's plan was to monopolize the forest and then sell a bunch of poison resistance items when the area opened up. He then told her that the boss doesn't always appear and they should try again tomorrow. She got all excited and thanked him. With that, Lu was going to go back to farming and even kill Zakas himself. The next day, it was time to go deeper into the forest. No one on the server knew what lay ahead, and he immediately encountered a level 10 python. His minions were just running away, so they ordered that rascal to start fighting. He realized that only those he equipped with anti-venom items were able to survive. The problem was that, like the spiders, there were a lot of snakes, and no matter how many they killed, they didn't seem to diminish. Their luck was that those players also left behind a ton of potions. 2 hours later, they were exhausted but still fighting the snakes. With that, he went home and slept. The next day, he woke up and returned to the forest, and strangely, his wolves had been hunting instead of lobbing out. And with that, they all reached level 9. Once again, he's impressed that these minions are better than he expected. The creatures are so intelligent that they even know how to take turns recovering their health. This is perfect since it means he doesn't have to worry about the creatures' levels as they level up while he sleeps. The most interesting thing is that now he has enough reputation to buy the snake's bloodline. The snake's talent also applies a poison that increases as the target moves. He immediately maxes it out, reaching 2.5% of health per second and increasing every time the person takes a step. My god, his character is becoming a monstrosity. He realizes he's heading down the path of ugliness, but the important thing is getting stronger. One attack deals 93 damage and applies both poisons, one that lasts 5 seconds and the other that lasts 60 seconds, increasing damage as the target moves. He says they'll go out hunting the entire forest together, and with that, he and the werewolves go on farming a bit more. Finally, they manage to get out. Or rather, they found something terrifying. The mistress of the round spiders. Her name is Evelyn Shire, and she's a level 12 boss and queen of poison. Lu Chen already knows that means a guaranteed piece of equipment, but it won't be easy. He decides to take the risk and take advantage of the fact that there are no other monsters nearby. However, she just gives him a little lick, and then spits a rain of webs. He and all his minions are immobilized. Lu Chen easily frees himself, but the poor minions are all trapped. At least he's free to go after her, and he starts dealing a lot of damage and applying poison. Even though he's dealing more damage than she is per second, she has much more HP. And the worst part is that she's slowing down his movement and attack speed. His advantage is that he can still escape and let her be consumed by the poison. In the meantime, the werewolves break free and return to help. But once again, she prepares when she looks back, and immobilizes them again. Our boy has already realized that the cooldown of the ability ends as soon as they return. so he's basically alone. The only way is to go for a strategy of killing her little by little. Half an hour later, he finally kills her and receives a ton of items. 2 4-star materials, a green piece of equipment, and even a recipe for a blue item. The recipe item is an advanced blue helmet with a ton of stats. The armor also provides a lot of defense and a bunch of abilities. He has no idea how much he could sell all this for. Now that he knows she drops a blue item, he decides the best move is to stay in the forest and kill her multiple times. Half an hour later, she reappears. He's impressed that the respawn is much faster than he thought, and immediately goes after her again to get more stuff. 10 hours pass. Lu Chen is exhausted, but he managed to get a massive amount of poison sets. Soon players will start suffering from the poison in the forest, and that's when he'll make a profit. The reputation set from that place cost 4 million, which is pretty expensive, but it's really strong, and he's already seeing people in the chat desperate because they're getting wrecked in that place. He notices that no one has mentioned the boss, so they're probably still in the first or second part. He decides to check out the live stream of that cute girl and try to make some money. The poor girl is getting beaten up by spiders, saying she's going to die again. Once again, she's back in the city. She says that it seems they're going to need a lot of items to defend against those poisons, but they don't know where to get them. Then she gets the idea to ask the only person who knows the secrets of this game. She sends a message to Lu Chen, asking if he has any items to help with poison resistance. Of course, our boy has plenty. He says he has a complete set, and she's shocked. She says she wants to buy a full set and asks how many he has. She's even more startled by the fact that he has more than one full set to sell. To test if it's true, she asks if she could buy 3 sets. Lu Chen simply tells her to open a trade room and send him the password. She still can't believe he actually has all that, but then he places the 3 sets in the trade, and with that he receives 21,000 gold. She immediately equips the set and feels very powerful, saying she can easily survive the forest now. Obviously, our boy receives 99 messages from people interested in buying the set. He then responds that he's going to hold an auction to make the most profit possible, and decides to buy a female avatar just to organize this without anyone knowing who he is. 10 minutes later, at a live event, he equips this hot skin to host the auction and of course to make the most money. Even though it's a bit embarrassing to have to play like this, he does it all for the money. The first item is a spider set along with the helmet. People keep increasing the bids, and the first item is sold for $1,400. Lu Chen is already excited, saying he's making a fortune. The third set is sold for another $9,800. Everyone is shocked at the amount of sets he has to sell. Then he says it's time to sell the sets in bulk, so the next sale will be for 3 full sets. Immediately, a lot of people start bidding. The price is already at 45,000 yuan, and he asks if anyone wants to go higher. One guy says he loves the seller and even blows a kiss. With that, the 3 sets are sold for $6,000. He announces another similar sale, and someone bids another 45,000 yuan. People are shocked that the previous bidder is monopolizing everything, and another person tries to avoid that by bidding 47,000. The other companies don't want to be outdone and bid 50,000. Our boy is the only one profiting, saying that anyone who wants to can raise the bid. The sets are starting to run out and people are bidding as much as they can, until someone says they'll pay 90,000. And now everyone is disheartened that the last 5 sets have been sold. Lin then says that today's auction was incredible and gives a hint that after the part they're in the forest, there will be something even scarier. People ask how anything could be worse than those snakes, considering no one is even able to beat them. But then he says that there's a piece of equipment that will decide who will easily conquer that area. People are excited because they thought those were the strongest items available. That's when he shows off the Evelynshire helmet, which can reduce the attack and movement ability of anyone who hits it. Our boy with his cursed skin says they can check it out for themselves. Everyone is in shock because it has much more defense than any other item. Even Ling Ji, the most famous streamer, wants that. Our boy says the auction will start at 15,000 with a minimum increase of 2,000. Immediately, the bids start multiplying. One bid for $5,000, another for 7,000, and the last one is sold for 8,700. Back at home, Lu Chen is all happy because he made more money today than he thought he'd make in a lifetime. Not to mention that his hand is regaining sensation and even his leg is now feeling warm. The only problem is that now people will start passing through the forest, but he did the best he could. Back in the game, everyone is equipped and ready to advance. With that, the spiders from before are no longer a challenge, and Ling Ji is there with her dangerous set. People are starting to farm some items from the spiders, and they quickly move on to the snakes. It was already 4:50 in the morning and people were still hunting in the forest, until everyone stopped and Ling Ji asked what that was. They had finally found Evelynshire. The group recognized by the name that this was where they could get that item that was sold. Before they could say anything, she had already jumped at them, and with one attack immobilized the entire guild. The next morning, our girl woke up and was impressed that they had the courage to go up against her. He starts thinking that the control abilities that Evelynshire has are really good, so it would be good for him to learn them. However, when he goes to buy the item that cost 1,000 yesterday, today it's already 2,000. He decides to buy it anyway before the price goes up even more. He immediately uses the item towards the boss. It grants the ability she has, but he'll need to have webbing to use it. With that, he calls his friends to go after her. 10 minutes later, he's in a dilemma. He just left the forest and can either go to the main city or to the Beast Mountain. Considering his current identity, he decides it's better to go to the mountain. But something leaves him impressed. The region is much larger than he expected. He sends his creatures to scout the area while he does the same. As he explores, he discovers various other monster races. The problem is that he wants something new to recruit, but none of these seem suitable for that. He then arrives in front of the chaotic funeral hill. The system mentions something about not asking about the Headless One and says that this is a level 20 area. Moreover, now that he's reached level 11, he no longer receives beginner protections. As soon as Lu Chen approaches, a hand emerges from the ground, and suddenly, another highly dangerous monster appears, this one at level 24. Our boy knows he doesn't stand a chance against it. The monster immediately conjures a skeleton magic to attack him. He takes a lot of damage and tries to run away. However, a creature that deals area damage is exactly what he needs. But before he can escape, the whole group is surrounded. He tries to get away while everyone else takes hits for him. After gaining some distance, he tells his minions that he'll try to lure one out and for them to stay put. One thing he can do is use the new spider ability to try to attract one. He just finds it ridiculous that this thing comes out of his belly. 10 minutes later, the creature seems to have accepted the contract, but its level was reduced to 11. He sees that it not only has area attacks, but can also reduce others' defenses. 15 minutes later, he managed to capture another one, and now he has a squad of 5. Additionally, he receives a quest to drive a creature named the King out of a region and claim the territory for himself. He knows the best option would be a place that few players can reach. As soon as he sees the top of the mountain, he imagines that's a good idea. However, when he finds there is a Tiger King. But now, with the whole group, he's confident they can beat it, until he takes 2 hits, each dealing more than 300 damage. He quickly realizes that he can't tank this alone and calls for help from his minions. With that, the battle begins, but the boss is full of poison. It took him 40 minutes to kill the creature. The system gives him the option to kill the monster and receive normal rewards, or he can drive the creature out of the territory and become the owner of that place. But then it would only respawn in another position. Since he's keen on claiming his own territory, he chooses to expel the creature. With that, he gains the right to establish himself in this place, and also the mission to clear the entire peak and name it after himself. Additionally, he receives a courageous title that increases his health by 20%. Lu is excited about the sensation of becoming the king of a part of this game, and with that, they go back to hunting to level up a bit more. And obviously, what he wants most are the items from this region to make a lot of money. Finally, he reaches level 12, and with that, he unlocks the secret realm of the Moon Valley. It's like a dungeon with many more items and bosses. Lu Chen wonders if it's worth it. He decides to leave his creatures hunting while he checks out how everything works over there. The system informs him that he can pray for an item before entering and perhaps the gods will grant it to him. Moreover, the first person to enter a realm also receives 5 times the rewards, and he can also offer an item to receive another of the same type. He understands that if he offers a weapon, he'll receive weapons, and if he offers armor, he'll receive armor. However, he has a much better idea for a valuable item. He decides to offer the only 4-star material he received from the boss. With that, his prayers are answered and can enter the secret realm. Inside, he's impressed by how gigantic the place is. At that moment, a global announcement is made. Everyone finds out that he has entered this dungeon and received the title of Moon Pioneer. Furthermore, the dungeon is open from 10:45 p.m. until morning. People still can't believe he's advancing so much faster than everyone else. Obviously, our big bad wolf isn't happy that everyone found out about this, but the title increases his strength by 10%, which isn't bad at all. Suddenly, he starts getting attacked by some green moon wolves, and our boy eagerly goes after them as he's there to collect materials. Since he's much stronger than a normal level 12, it's not difficult at all. And since he's the first person to enter the place, each kill gives him 5 times the normal amount. The most capitalist of them all goes into a frenzy to farm as much as possible. An hour later, he has already leveled up and collected over 1,000 materials. The list is huge, I'm not going to read all that, but his critical talent is already at 23%. Now he's searching for an ancient heart and an ancient fragment. Unfortunately, it's already time for the boss, so he hopes he can get those. He goes after the boss, who only has 6,000 health, which he considers very weak. And with that, he defeats it extremely easily, obtaining more than 35-star fragments. Everyone finds out that he cleared this realm in 5 minutes. He decides to trade the fragments for prestige items and also upgrade that item to increase his legion. With that, he can now have 10 subordinates and even assign one as his leader. Soon, it'll be impossible to hunt in this forest with all the creatures he's amassing. And now, before logging out, he assigns a specific mission for the item he needs. Back in his room, he's all happy about making so much money. It feels like a dream. And the upper part of his body is basically 100% normal. Maybe soon, he'll be able to stand up again. Additionally, he's already thinking about buying a house with all the money he's earned. He looks at a decent apartment that's within his budget to buy. Meanwhile, at the National Security Building of Country C, A member of the Special Operations Group asks if it's strange that they have to assemble an entire team just to play a game. However, a man named Lin Hai says that the government and even the military are getting involved with this game, so they need to understand why. He speculates that there's something bigger behind all of this and asks Lin Hai how his progress is going. Lin Hai explains that they're working hard, but they're still stuck in the poisonous forest. The guy passes on information about a certain person he needs to ensure becomes a good ally. The next day, even in his wheelchair, our boy went to buy the apartment. A lady greeted him, and he said he was there to buy a medium-sized place. What he didn't know was that some guys were watching him from behind, saying it was definitely him. Lin Hai had alerted everyone to be prepared. Meanwhile, the secretary was showing our boy the apartments. The woman told him not to hesitate for even a second and to buy it right away. But even the translator mentioned that if someone tells you not to hesitate, you should hesitate. But Lu Chen was making so much money that he thought buying a little gift for his sister wasn't a big deal. Then a girl with pink hair appears and tells him not to buy it because it's full of problems. She warned everyone not to buy apartments from this place because they had serious quality issues. People hesitated because buying something like that would mean spending years and years of savings. The woman called security to remove the girl, but she kept saying she even had evidence. Moreover, after paying, you wouldn't get your money back. The security guards approached, telling them to remove the girl without hurting her too much. But one of them just bumped into our boy and told the cripple to get out of the way. He grabbed the girl by the shoulder and told her to come talk to them. She said she wouldn't and asked for someone to help her. Our boy stood there, unable to do anything, while people seemed to be recording, saying it would make for an incredible video. The girl told them to stop recording and help her since she was there to save them. And then our protagonist grabbed the guy's arm and told him to stop bullying the girl. However, the guy tried to kick him, telling him to shut up. Our boy was impressed that he had enough strength to block a kick out of nowhere. And suddenly, another guy was coming in with a baton. But our cripple gave him an elbow strike too. Only in this damn Manhwa would the guy be blocking batons and beating everyone without getting out of his wheelchair. The guy who took the elbow strike told the others to knock him out of the chair, and one came running from behind and gave him a push. But suddenly, someone held the chair. Eyes glowing, the guys from before appeared, telling him not to worry. They were there. With that, they started beating up the security guards. Shortly after, they were all on the ground. They told Lu Chen not to worry. They'd take care of the rest. Lin found the whole situation strange. But suddenly, the boss of that place appeared, asking who was causing trouble with the Yang group. He came down and saw Lin Hai calling someone to report the problems happening there. The blonde guy laughed, saying no one in this city had the guts to mess with them. But Lin Hai just warned that he had at most 10 minutes to get out of there. The guy laughed and simply replied that they, on the other hand, had 1 minute. And the thugs warned that they be careful not to break any bones. Then the guy made a Matrix-like jump and went for a punch at Lin Hai. But Lin Hai, being a secret agent, dodged and gave him a kick, and then caught the other guy midair with a punch to the ribs. Before the boss could understand what was happening, his thugs were thrown back. Lin Hai then asked the boss what he thought of that, and the boss said he was willing to pay compensation. But he took a punch to the stomach too, to teach him a lesson. Lin Hai said they had offended a young master, so they have to pay dearly for it. People around started speculating that the guy in the wheelchair must be the son of someone very rich. But the girl in the middle said that didn't make sense, considering he came to buy an apartment there. However, Lin Hai took advantage of these rumors to disguise everything and say that the young master had returned to the family. Our boy decided to join in on the act and said that he was willing to live a normal life and buy an ordinary house. 3 minutes later, the police arrived, and the guy selling the problematic apartments was obviously not going to get away with it. He left scared by the background of the guy in the wheelchair's family. The guard said everything was resolved, and Lin Hai thanked him. With that, he turned to the young master and said they needed a quiet place to talk. Lu Chen began to realize that this was related to the game and just hoped the request wouldn't be too bad. Even the pink-haired girl came to thank him, saying it was incredible, but our boy said it was no big deal. Lin Hai then turns to the lackey and tells him to give a reward to the girl while he talks with our boy. The scene shifts to a restaurant where Lu Chen asks who they are. The guy says they won't reveal that, but they know someone called Only I Am Savage and need his help. Lu Chen asks why he would help them with that. The guy says that while the in-game methods might be safe, the bank accounts are not. Lu Chen realizes how he was exposed. Lin Hai explains that his team is stuck with 500 people in the Snake Swamp and they need help. If he agrees, he can take this card and buy a house from one of the biggest real estate companies. Lu Chen says he can't accept since it's such a small favor. However, Lin Hai explains that he still doesn't understand the scale of this game and that there's much more to come. Lu Chen agrees, saying he doesn't like owing favors. Lin Hai only asks that when he buys the house, he puts it under the Qin Shen Group's name so they can get a 30% discount. Our boy says he understands but asks why they're spending so much on a game. The guy explains that he's not sure, but entire countries are getting involved in it, including the military. So it's more complex than it seems. Lu Chen begins to leave, telling them to show up in the forest between 7 and 7:30. The guy asks if he won't give a specific day, and Lu Chen says that they'll understand everything when they get there, even though he didn't want to get involved with other people. Considering that his details could be found out, it's better to have his safe place, which is why he accepted. At 7:30, the entire company group was stuck at the entrance to the forest. Currently, it's so hard to buy items that people are poorly equipped because there's nothing in the shop. However, he tells everyone to move forward as they need to start leveling up. That's when they're in shock. Everyone wonders what's going on. The creatures throughout the entire forest were lying defeated on the ground. Lin Hai wonders if he really did this all by himself. Our boy had already returned there and even killed the boss. 20 minutes later, they found even the boss dead and couldn't believe he was playing alone. With that, we skip to 2 days later in the mountain region. He's, as usual, farming wolves while his creatures dominate the area. Man, this one's a 3PO monster, and seems like when you play the game, they just change the skeleton's color and say it's another creature. And from it, he drops a long floral skirt that increases movement speed. Our boy is shocked that it took 2 days to drop this item. He immediately decides to start an auction to make as much money as possible, as usual. Obviously, the biggest danger in this entire game is thinking about checking the shopping center to see if there's anything interesting. This skirt is limited to female characters and has the ability to control a target for 30 seconds. She clicks the option to test it out and see how it looks, and already feels like it smells lovely like flowers and looks amazing on her, so she needs to buy it. The problem is that as soon as she places a bid in the auction, a bunch of people instantly raises it. The girls with their sugar daddies are all begging him to get it for them, and the e-girl posts saying she'll give anything the buyer wants. The auction has only 5 seconds left, and it's already at 65,000. In the last few seconds, a lot of people start increasing the bid. She's shocked, wondering how many people want this. However, the item is sold to a girl named Dancing Fairy for $13,000. Lu didn't imagine people would compete so much for this, but for him, it's great. Additionally, he's been farming the bloodline of nature creatures while in this region. With the new bloodline, he can see up to 400 meters away, and a little plant sprouts on his head. With that, he enters a region he had been avoiding, which is full of mist. There lies the path of Lost Eden, where it's common to get lost and where monsters deceive you. However, everyone receives a notification that only I Am Savage has activated the Lost Eden mission. This was a mission that would involve everyone on the server and double the experience they'd receive for 10 hours. People saw that the recommended level was 20, but they were eager to participate since it involved everyone. Moreover, all servers would be merged to participate in this. The members of the biggest guilds began to form groups to survive this. Lu Chen was sad because once again, everyone was notified of the things he was doing, and in front of him were a bunch of super mutated werewolves. These were level 15 creatures in large quantities and much stronger than usual. That's when he remembered that this mission would strengthen all wild creatures, and by chance, he and his wolves were also of that race. And with that, his creatures began to be strengthened and enter a super mutation mode, including our boy, who had his attributes doubled for this mission. Since there was some time before the mission started, he decided to check out Ling Ji's live stream. Everyone was at the front of the main city. This time, the number of players was greater than on the first day, but the big danger was that no one would have protection for players below level 10. However, there was one person who wasn't competing with everyone else. Obviously, it was our savage boy, who was already near the forest. The only thing was that this plant on his head was making him look like an idiot. But with that, he set off and began farming the event creatures. Naturally, he acquired a massive list of items. He encountered one of the mini-bosses in that area and wondered what it would drop. What he got were level 5 talent fragments, a bunch of event points, and of course, the capitalist's favorite, 3 green items. These included a claw and a ring that increased critical chance. Naturally, he equipped all of these since he was in the middle of the event and it wasn't the time to sell. Combining these with his bloodline, his critical hit rate was much higher. When he checked the shop, everything was selling for much higher prices since people were suddenly gearing up to participate in the event. He was making basically $2,000 every 5 minutes selling the items and quickly went back to get more. The players were now wandering through the forest searching for creatures. They saw a mist coming from one direction and wondered if that was the way to go. However, the server notified them that only I Am Savage had entered a more advanced area, which is why the mist had intensified. People thought he was crazy for going alone on a server-wide mission and that he'd soon die. They had to take this chance to find him and start farming too. That's when Lu Chen found one of the pillars that needed to be destroyed. He turned to his zombie girl and ordered her to attack. With that, she leaped toward the pillar. But just then, a level 20 boss appeared. With 2 hits, it dealt over 2,500 damage. He told his minions to stay back since they'd die in 1 hit. His poison was dealing 600 damage, but that thing had 100,000 HP. Things had been easy lately, so he had accumulated a lot of items and decided it was time to use them. He started using all the webs he had accumulated and applying potions to his creatures. Of course, his creatures were getting hit hard and nearly dying. An hour passed, and the boss was still alive, and he was running out of items. Meanwhile, outside, people were struggling with the wolves. Ling Ji and her friend noticed that the longer they spent inside the mist, the weaker they became. Everyone decided they needed to find a solution quickly. But then the player, Only I Am Savage, obtained the title of first succeeded and had destroyed the pillar in that area. While he rested, the system calculated the rewards. It had cost him everything he had accumulated, but he was confident in the reward. He could choose the ability to summon a creature similar to that boss, or he could receive a pet, which was basically a little wolf cub. But when it grew up, it would be a big surprise. Lu knew he had a dominated territory, so maybe raising a creature that would always be by his side was the best option. And with that, he chose the wolf pup. He picked it up like in the Lion King and checked its attributes. Of course, it was incredibly weak and had no stats at all. The server event had 8 pillars and now 7 remained. And with that, he called his wolves to attack. Meanwhile, the players were trying to organize to fight the wolves. They were finally managing to defeat all the lunar creatures. But as Only I Am Savage activated another pillar, the mist intensified once again. The players realized he was moving too fast and they wouldn't be able to catch up. But suddenly, a giant portal appeared for everyone, and they were going to be regrouped. The members of the Dynasty Guild were also preparing to join the event, but they decided it was foolish to farm weak creatures and wanted to go straight for the boss, until they received the message that Only I Am Savage had broken the second pillar and only 6 remained. Then they became desperate, saying they had to catch up to that bastard. Our boy had now obtained a little bird. It seemed he was collecting a bunch of pets. The only problem was that he was out of potions, and none were being sold in the shop. That's when he heard someone shouting about a werewolf being nearby. There was other players who were telling everyone to be careful and not to attract the creature. What they found strange was that the boss's name was enormous and seemed exaggerated. Then Lu Chen remembered the easiest way to collect potions, and with that he ordered his army to wipe out the players. The poor players didn't stand a chance even against the creatures he summoned. The leader was trying to tell everyone to follow his plan, until he got hit by an attack from who knows where. Everyone was being crushed, saying the event boss was invincible. Now that players no longer had beginner protection, when they died, their items were also dropped. And Lu Chen told his creatures to collect everything, including the potions. The only thing worrying him was that people were starting to catch up. Meanwhile, in the southern part, people were fighting one of the bosses. He decided not to get involved since they would have to spend more than an hour just to kill that creature, and decided to watch some live streams to see how the other players were doing. Ling Ji said on her live stream that it would take a while to kill that boss, so she was going to check out the other regions. In the southern part, it was likely that the first boss would be defeated. In the northern part, there was a 4-armed orc, and in the eastern part, there was a horned creature. Now Lu Chen knew exactly which bosses he could kill in time without anyone interfering. He quickly called his group to do another sweep. As soon as he arrived, he activated the spider's web trapping attack. I thought it was for the boss, but the guy went to kill more players instead. They wondered what that creature approaching was. Of course, it didn't give them any chance and took everyone out. 8 minutes passed. He had killed everyone around the crab boss to steal the kill. Since the creature had low health due to the players, it only took 5 minutes to kill. In the western part, people were facing another boss. And of course, someone arrived and wiped everyone out to steal that kill. An hour later, a little lion cub was already facing someone. It seemed that every time he killed a boss, he got a pet. Now he had a whole collection around him. With that, the system congratulated him for collecting all the cubs. He'd received a limited quest that only activates when this happens. He would have to sacrifice some of the other creatures to choose an even stronger one. He looked at the options and was impressed that something like this actually existed. He decided to choose Manhwa, the Black Dragon of Despair. Suddenly, he was teleported to the sky, and from the pillars below, the creatures began to howl. That's when he realized that the sacrifice mentioned in the quest was that he would have to kill these creatures. The problem was how to kill what he was trying to summon. In reality, what was going to happen was that the 4 creatures would help him kill the boss. This was actually his ability to strategize with multiple creatures, which he was already quite experienced in. With that, the Nidhogg dragon descended to the ground, and the guy immediately unleashed a fiery blast on everyone. The monster's special attack dealt 20,000 damage. He thanked the boss and quickly sent his group to a safe area. He trapped the boss's legs to prevent it from flying and activating the ability again, and then he sent the quest creatures to attack. Of course, the damage they were dealing wasn't very high. It was going to take a while, but he was confident he could do it. An hour later, in another part of the event, there was conflict between the guilds as some were trying to monopolize the items. They issued orders not to let anyone play dirty since everyone had made a deal. However, the dynasty members had already advanced to try to take what was left. They managed to destroy one of the few pillars that our boy hadn't gone after. The server announced that the event had ended. They would have to wait for the secret dungeon, and then the double experience would be activated. But, of course, people were angry with Dynasty because they broke the deal and killed the boss alone. And with that, everyone was teleported back. They were all crying because they didn't get much out of the event. Everyone advanced toward Dynasty, telling them to return what they took. The leader didn't know what kind of secret quest this was, as he couldn't leave the game until the person finished. Inside, Liu Chen was still fighting the dragon. Meanwhile, outside, it turned into chaos and players were all fighting each other. Other players nearby noticed that people were trying to steal the divine beasts and wondered if they should get involved. With that, more people decided to join the conflict. Everyone's goal was to kill the guild members who had the item and take it for themselves. Meanwhile, Liu Chen completed the legendary quest and obtained the dragon's blood. That triggered a secret quest called Divine Blood of the Demonic Seed. Man, so many names, why mix divine and demonic? He would have to obtain 4 of the most powerful creatures in the game, and he already had one, the dragon. Additionally, he needed to obtain the 4 most powerful evil creatures. Finally, he had to complete several dungeons, and with that, he would receive divine blood and demonic blood. Liu Chen was shocked. This clearly wasn't going to be easy and would take ages to complete. But with that, the Lost Eden mission had been completed. He was removed from the secret area and saw everyone fighting. He wondered what had caused all this chaos. When people saw him, they recognized him as the boss with the giant name. But our boy wasn't interested in staying there. He decided to run to his own territory, where he had more advantage in his creatures. However, on the way, he heard someone calling out for the prince of the dynasty. Our boy wondered if they didn't know that this was his turf. At that moment, Ling Ji was also attacking the guy, telling him to go to hell. It was a pity that our boy's wolves got involved and started beating everyone up, including the leader, who was killed in a second. Then our boy captured the only things those guys had. Now he realized that this Eden event was actually a massive PvP for these creatures, and the only one left for him was one of the few he hadn't captured yet. He ran, saying that if this was the case, he was going to monopolize everything. Ling Ji and her ally were attacking a guy who was trying to flee, until the final boss arrived, delivering a blow to the guy's back, who immediately fell to the ground. In a second, everyone was dead, and he had collected everything. With that, he activated the Evil Beast quest. Just like before, he would have to choose a creature and enter the realm to conquer it. He decided to do it right away since, with the experience from last time, he was confident he could succeed. 2 hours later, he was exhausted and couldn't wait to log out and get some sleep. Back home, he knew he had made over $1 million and was planning to surprise his sister, who rarely comes home. That's when he checked his phone and saw he had 16 missed calls from her. He called her back and asked what had happened, if she was in any trouble. She said she just wanted to vent because the Dynasty Guild wasn't letting her team level up. Our boy said it would be nice if he could help her. She told him not to worry about it and to just rest. For now, he was avoiding telling her anything so that no one would involve the two of them and put her at any risk. The next day, that rascal was already walking. Man, that helmet really does heal, huh? He was at level 14 and was sure that in 3 more levels, he'd be completely normal again. For him, this game was magical, though he should be careful, as something might happen. He logged back into the game and immediately set everyone to farming and leveling up. He wanted to make life difficult for the Dynasty Guild, especially because he wanted to help his sister. With that, he contacted Lin Hai's guild and asked for help locating them. Lin Hai agreed to help, but only asked that Liu Chen sell him some good items later. 5 minutes later, our boy was already wiping out the entire guild. The only problem was that he wanted to get closer to her, and for that, he needed a human appearance. Then he remembered that every time he kills 1,000 creatures, a skin appears in the shop to look like them. And maybe if he killed enough humans, he could get something similar. With that, life for the entire guild turned into hell. 10 hours later, they still couldn't leave the city because he was killing everyone. He decided to call his sister and asked how her day was going. She said it wasn't easy because those people were still giving her a hard time. He then told her to send him her nickname because he knew a very strong friend who would help her. She wanted to know where he had met this so-called master friend. He told her not to worry about the details and just focus on the fact that the guy was very strong. With that, she agreed, and he promised that her big brother would help her. He kept his name anonymous so no one would know who he was and added his sister. Her nickname was the one who loves Big Brother the most. That confirmed for him that it had to be her. He introduced himself as a friend of Liu Chen and asked about the problems she was having. In her profile pictured, the crazy sister who loves her brother the most was still gushing over him. She explained that the Dynasty Guild was monopolizing one of the quests they needed to complete from a certain NPC. Liu Chen knew which monster that was and where the boss was located. He told her that he'd find her soon because he had something to complete first. He then rushed out to wipe out the entire guild. In the area, the Dynasty members were killing the boss. They were shocked when someone came rushing in, desperate. Our boy passed everyone and was about to complete his quest. Of course, the boss didn't stand a chance, and the only thing it dropped was some potions. Suddenly, he received an email with a video and decided to check it out. He saw that it was from his sister and decided to watch to see what she looked like in the game. She was pretty well behaved. She informed him that the Dynasty members were already dead, so he didn't need to worry. However, she had just stepped into a trap. A girl in purple clothing told her that if she wanted to complete the quest, she would have to kneel and beg. Before she could say anything, she was whipped, and the woman asked where the brother with that nickname was. Just then, Liu Chen completed the skin quest and decided to buy it. With that, our boy finally had a somewhat normal appearance. He was all happy, looking handsome, and finally looked like a human. He He decided to change his nickname to Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. His sister messaged him saying she was stressed and was going to log off the game for a bit. Lu Chen decided to go to the beginner's city to resolve the issue. He just needed to unequip some things so as not to scare people. His sister took off her helmet, fuming with anger. But her friend told her not to worry because their boss would soon return and avenge her. However, Lu Yi didn't want to cause trouble for everyone at the company because they might end up dying to Dynasty. Our boy was in a low-level area when a strange goblin approached him. He was thinking of killing it when a bunch of players started to approach. Before he could say anything, the group rushed in to finish it off. That's when he noticed that one of the girls in that fight was the girl from the real estate office, named Hualuo. Her friend in blue clothing had picked up an item and said she was going to sell it. Then the girl noticed our boy and asked if he had gotten separated from his guild. He replied that no, actually he was a lone wolf and didn't belong to any guild. People laughed, saying that was a pretty crazy way to play. But with that, he took the opportunity to return to the city with them, pretending to be just another adventurer. However, the city gate was crowded with people. He had no idea the beginner's area was like this, and he noticed that right in front of the gate was some sort of ranking. These were the strongest people in that area, and every day they received items because of it. Hualu commented that the guy at the top of the ranking, named Taj, was a very strong fighter who had spent a lot of money. Lu knew this was an important competition and thought it would be cool if he could participate. The guy told him not to even think about it since there was only one player who could win it alone. He asked who it was, and the guy said, obviously, it was only I Am Savage. The girl must have some kind of detector because she immediately asked if he was savage, since he had the name of someone who likes to hunt alone and wasn't with anyone. Obviously flustered, he denied it. Her friend told them to stop chatting and get moving. The girl in blue was named Lengmyo, and she was quitting her acting career to start a guild in the game. Our boy was just standing there thinking it's no wonder she's so beautiful. The beginner city was extremely busy, and our boy was amazed by the structure. Suddenly, a guy bumped into him and told him to get out of the way. They kept walking, and one of them turned around and told Lu Chen to watch where he was going. Nearby, people were talking about the three masters going to challenge the Immortal Tower again. Lu decided that might be something good to do while his sister wasn't in the game. He headed toward the tower challenge, and people wondered why someone so trashy was trying something like that. They started laughing in his face, saying he wouldn't last 20 seconds. But he just walked up and said he wanted to apply for the Immortal Tower challenge. The guys just said to ignore this crazy guy and focus on the test of the three great masters. His group was impressed, and the actress was curious about our boy's performance. Of the 4 people who entered, 3 passed in a second, but Lu Chen didn't reveal his result. Hualuo was a little sad that he didn't share it, but Lengyu just told her to pay attention to the other 3 masters and learn from them. The white-haired guy was excited, saying this time he was going to break his record. And everyone outside said he was so good that he finished in no more than 15 seconds. 2 minutes passed. People were shocked that the beginner was still inside and hadn't come out. Lengyu had no idea why his time kept increasing. He had been in there for 3 minutes and 11 seconds. The white-haired guy wanted to take the next challenge, but the game wasn't letting him enter. Inside, our boy was wiping out a bunch of moon wolves. The 100 copper coins each one dropped was the perfect chance for him to make even more money. He had been on the first floor for 4 minutes, and the system forced him to move to the next one. He was annoyed and hadn't noticed that a level 11 boss was already beside him, but he easily destroyed it, and that one dropped 200 copper coins. 4 minutes later, he was forced to the next floor. Of course, he was going to take advantage of this money paradise. People outside started getting scared that he had been on the 3rd floor for so long. The girls couldn't believe he was really that strong. 2 minutes and 33 seconds had passed, and the other challengers were starting to be defeated. Eventually, they all lost one by one. The gray-haired guy decided he would have to rest for a while, or he would end up dying there too. But he finally managed to beat the 3rd floor. However, on the 4th floor, he was getting beaten by some plants and realized this was his limit. As soon as he came out, everyone praised him, saying it was no wonder he was the #1 player. The friend next to him said it was impressive that he was the first to reach the 4th floor. But then he noticed that the rest of the crowd seemed more anxious about another result. Everyone was shouting about the time continuing to increase, and he saw that the anonymous player had been on the 4th floor for 56 seconds. Lu Chen was having fun since each monster there dropped 400 copper coins. He stayed on the 4th floor for 4 minutes and was forced to move to the next. Outside, the girls were impressed, and Lengyu knew people would go crazy when they found out. And that's exactly what was happening. They were going wild seeing someone reach the 5th floor and wondering if this guy was only I Am Savage. But when they checked Ling Ji's live stream, only I Am Savage was there saying that one day he would try to go to that tower. Obviously, he did that so no one would think he was only I Am Savage. Besides, he decided he would stop on the 5th floor or it would be too much. The money he had made was good, so it was time to leave. As soon as he stepped out, he was shocked. There was a crowd surrounding our boy. A friend from the group said it was unbelievable that the anonymous boy had reached the 5th floor, and immediately asked him to teach the secret techniques. However, the former #1 said his equipment was trash and demanded he explain how he cheated. Everyone agreed it was impossible to get that far with such weak items. But Lu Chen simply replied that he had no obligation to explain how he did it, and warned the guy that from now on, a territory wasn't his anymore. With that, he walked away, leaving the fools there without saying anything else. He went to the clerk, who told him to register the guild name. He was just after the reward, not planning to create a guild. But then he thought maybe it wasn't such a bad idea. The problem was that he would need 4 people. That's when he remembered that the group from earlier mentioned wanting to create a guild with Langyo. He invited the group to the guild and told them they could leave later. All they wanted was to get the tower reward. Hualuo said she understood, but that it was a pity they couldn't help with something so difficult. He said that didn't matter. He just wanted to create the guild to get the rewards. However, Langyo said that as guild comrades, she would help him. So he went to register, which would cost 50 silver coins. The girls were impressed that he had the money, and of course our boy had just earned that amount in the tower. With that, he created the guild called Crazy Wave. Oh my god, this guy's naming sense is the worst. Naturally, Langyo got closer. She said he was a bit weak, but at least she could help share some of the damage. But our boy is ruthless and said he didn't need it. The only thing he wanted to know was why so many people were watching him. What he was entering was the guild challenge, not the solo one. And everyone wanted to know why he was going in alone. So there was the Crazy Wave guild with 11 seconds on the first floor. Hualuo was nervous, but our dear Langyo was confident in our boy. When he reached the first floor, no one could believe it. At his sister's company, her friend mentioned that someone was breaking records in the tower. His sister asked if it was only I Am Savage, but she said no. It was an anonymous player. She wondered who it was when the boss entered and said they were going to deal with the people who were causing trouble for her. They seemed motivated, saying that the Era Guild had a bunch of arrogant members, and they needed to get revenge. The friend just thanked them. Meanwhile, our boy was passing every test in the guild challenge. He was winning alone and was already on the 3rd floor. The day was starting to turn into night, and people were still standing outside without resetting. When he finally came out, people were still there praising our boy. Langyo suggested they should take a look at the place where they should establish the guild's base. But our boy simply said he didn't have time for that and was leaving to farm. However, his friend was motivated because he was now the elder of the strongest guild of all. The weirdest part was that the strongest guild only had 4 members, and they were part of it. Hualuo mentioned that since the leader didn't care about the guild, they should manage it and grow it with the fame he left behind. Langyo seemed a bit unsure about this and said it was better to ask him first. So they sent the friend to talk to our boy, who was more interested in getting back to farming. The guy said they wanted to manage the guild and other things, but Lu Chen didn't care much and just said they could do whatever they wanted. With that, the guy was thrilled because it was a golden opportunity. Meanwhile, he was more concerned about how his sister was doing. The scene shifts to his sister's guild, challenging that whip-wielding girl. The blonde leader approached and told the woman to step aside, or they would have to deal with her. However, she just laughed, asking who they thought they were. The leader wanted to know why she was causing trouble for the player in his guild. She said she didn't like the girl's nickname or appearance, so she decided to beat her up. The leader said that was ridiculous and ordered everyone to attack. But she had a bunch of simps following her who immediately came to her defense. And the worst part was that she was also the wife of the Dynasty Guild leader. Luvia asked what they were going to do, and the leader told her to try to stay calm. He turned to the Dynasty leader and said they should end this conflict. But the leader only replied that they were a bunch of trash he wasn't afraid of. The leader said there was no need for this, but the guy warned that no one would complete the mission there. The whip-wielding girl said she would let them pass if they all kneeled to kiss her feet. But of course, no one accepted that. The Dynasty guy approached and said in that case, they would have to settle it another way. He immediately attacked the captain, saying that was the quickest way. With that, their team started getting beaten. Lu Yi realized that their group wasn't that much stronger since they couldn't complete these missions. She turned to the leader and told them to flee, but he said they were a team and wouldn't let that happen. Then, a gust of wind passed by. The leader said their unity was incredible, but it wouldn't do any good. He approached Lu Yi and told her that if she kneeled, she would be spared. But she said, only in your dreams. He was about to strike her, but she barely managed to defend herself. A while later, everyone appeared in the respawn area. They had been wiped out and everyone had lost some items. Apparently, the leader had gone to ask for help from another guild. Lu Yi saw she had received some messages and decided to check what they were. Of course, it was our boy saying he was on his way, but she replied that it was crazy since the entire Dynasty Guild was there. But he just responded that it was fine and that it wouldn't change anything. She was confused, wondering if he didn't understand what she was saying. She tried to explain it better, but he just replied that you never know what might happen. Then her leader showed up and said, unfortunately, the other guild leaders didn't want to go against Dynasty. She said it was fine, and for now, she would just go kill some creatures to level up a bit. She knew the people wouldn't stay in front of that boss forever and decided she would give up on that mission for now. With that, she told the others she wouldn't bother them anymore and logged off. Everyone was sad because they wanted to help her but unfortunately couldn't do anything. Until someone masked approached. He stood right behind the Dynasty members and asked if they had killed the girl who loved her brother so much. The girl laughed and asked if he was the brother, and the guy asked if they were really going to die because of her. Lu Chen just told them to apologize before it was too late, But of course the guy started laughing because he was alone. At that moment, Liu Yi arrived and told him not to get involved because it wasn't worth it. However, he assured her she didn't need to worry because it would be easy to handle. The side characters couldn't stop laughing, saying he was hilarious. The guy with the pompadour said he would finish him off in one hit, and the leader told him not to kill him too quickly, while Liu Yi tried to insist that our boy not get involved. Before he could respond, the guy jumped to attack him, but Liu Chen just tossed his hammer to the side, hitting the guy in the face. He was instantly thrown to the ground with 0 health. At that moment, the others realized it wouldn't be as easy as they thought. The purple-haired girl asked what that was, and the leader said it must have been some kind of bug. But Liu Chen just told everyone to kneel and start apologizing. Of course, the leader wasn't going to back down that easily and ordered the entire guild to attack. With that, our boy started getting attacked by the gang. But with each hammer swing, he dealt 1,900 damage, and the guys died instantly. He barely moved, and half the guild was already on the ground. The others couldn't believe it was possible to deal 2,000 damage and wondered if they should run. But as soon as the guy turned around, Liu Chen was already behind him. The captain took advantage of the situation by letting his members die for him and started running away. The people recognized Liu Chen as the guy who imported them and said Dynasty was screwed. Lying on the ground, the leader begged for mercy. But of course, he got a solid smack on the back of the head. Liu Chen turned to the girl and told her to apologize or her guild would never know peace. She immediately started banging her head on the ground, saying she would never do something like that again. But Liu Chen said he couldn't let it slide and she had to take a beating to learn her lesson. He handed an axe to Liu Yi and said she could use it until she felt better. At that moment, Liu Yi's friend said she knew a very strong guy and asked to be introduced to the boy. She turned to our boy and asked him to introduce himself, asking who he really was. He just said to tell her that he was her brother's friend. She wanted to give him the item the woman had given her, but he said it was too valuable and she could keep it. Besides, that weapon wouldn't be useful to him, so it would be a waste. He assured her that from now on, if anyone messed with her, he would take care of it. With that, he left and her friend said she didn't have to worry about anything anymore. Our boy was back in his territory. He had bought some human pills there and wondered when things would improve. But it was time to level up again, so he called everyone together. The mountain creatures were no longer a challenge, and he wanted to find a dungeon to farm. He found it interesting that there was a strong Korean guild from another server already finishing the Tiger Cavern. And then an announcement was made that the Three Saints Guild was challenging everyone on the China server to compete in that place as well. Our boy saw it as the perfect opportunity not only to do a dungeon, but also to get an extra reward. Her friend told Ling Ji about the challenge, and she said those guys were arrogant for challenging everyone. But in the video, you could see that the guild members were really strong and well organized. The problem was that on their server, they had never even heard of this cavern, so maybe they would fall behind. What they didn't know was that our boy was already inside, killing a bunch of monsters. Moreover, the place wasn't that bad as it had some green equipment. With the new agility boots, he could strike much faster, and he started running through the cavern, killing everything in sight. A little while later, he was already facing the boss, and Ling Ji was commenting on how that guild had gotten a very powerful item. For them, their entire server was being embarrassed, and Ling Ji wanted to know where Only I Am Savage was. Inside, our boy was already killing another boss, including a level 19 saber-toothed Tiger King. The best part was that blue quality items were already dropping. He realized that the boss he killed was a secret one that only appeared when he killed the others quickly. Meanwhile, the other guild members were struggling in front of that creature. Ling Ji commented that they had already failed 5 times but were getting closer each time. 3 minutes later, the boss seemed to be getting defeated, and the Korean guild members were celebrating. Now with all those new items, they had become even stronger, which made it harder for their server. People wondered why Only I Am Savage wasn't doing anything and questioned whether they should accept the challenge. But inside, our boy was already fighting another boss. This time, he dropped 2 blue quality items. One of them was a cape that increased movement speed and dodge at night. The stats were so good that our boy decided to equip it right away. The only thing he wanted now was better pants since he was still wearing the beginner ones. Meanwhile, the Korean players were preparing to challenge the dungeon once again and go even further. 12 minutes later, our boy found another boss. In one attack, he was turned into a block of ice. With him immobilized, the creature moved in to finish him off. One attack shattered the ice and caused some damage to him. Luckily, he had plenty of potions and health. With that, he landed another hit on the boss's head. This time, he dropped a sword, a cloak, and a mantle. There was a set of ice gear that allowed him to use the Frozen Scream ability. He didn't get the pants, but he did get what he wanted most. He was the first person to defeat all the bosses and receive the title of Tiger Hunter, which increased his attributes by 10%. The system asked if he wanted to show his name on the ranking. He said no, so the announcement was made with his name as anonymous. He could only challenge that place again in 30 minutes, so he decided to do other things in the meantime. However, as soon as he exited the cavern, it was crowded outside. People recognized him as the anonymous guy from the tower and were impressed that he had blue gear. He didn't want to talk to anyone, so he ran off. The people said to ignore him and focus on the mission. When he arrived, he decided to check the ranking. Apparently, it didn't show to the entire server but updated at the entrance. They knew that the Three Saints Guild took 46 minutes and was still fighting the final boss. They finally finished everything in 47 minutes. People were angry that this other server was so arrogant, but then people shared that the first place was actually held by an anonymous player. Naturally, everyone was wondering who this guy was. Others said it must be a lie since there was no video. The blonde who shared the information knew that the anonymous guy would return in 30 minutes. Ling Ji grabbed her friend and said they had to see this person. When our boy arrived, everyone was impressed with his blue gear. Ling Ji thanked him, saying he really protected the dignity of their server. But our guy is a man of few words and just told everyone to move aside. The bootlickers obediently complied, even making way for him. Lu Chen wanted to avoid attracting attention, but he really needed some pants, so he had to keep farming. Everyone was curious to see what his next time would be. He immediately entered the dungeon and started doing it much faster since he now had experience. Ling Ji was confident, but her friend said that other guilds would want to break this record. Once again, the other guild finished, and this time it was in 39 minutes. But Lu Chen didn't care about that. Because he advanced extremely quickly, he found the final secret boss of that place. While everyone was focused on breaking records, he was more concerned with getting some pants. And finally, the cursed item appeared. The most interesting thing was that this time there were some purple tier materials. The system wanted to register the record, but he didn't care about that. He was more interested in the pants, which had the ability to cause burns on others. Moreover, the purple item wasn't a material, but a two-handed sword. It had an effect that created combo attacks. The item was so much stronger that it was almost like doubling his attributes. Outside, people realized that 40 minutes had passed and were sure he hadn't broken the record. However, the ranking didn't count the hidden bosses, and he had actually done it in 38 minutes. A streamer got excited, saying he was really amazing. Our boy came out looking different, now like Guts from Berserk with that cape over his face. What he didn't expect was to have an even bigger crowd waiting outside. He stepped out to cheers, and naturally, everyone was saying he was handsome. Ling Ji was hovering around, saying she wanted to take a look at his sword. Our guy was humble, saying it was fine and he would show the big sword to everyone. He threw it up and people were shocked to see the attributes. He started leaving, saying he would come back in half an hour to break the record again. Ling Ji was motivated to wait for his return. He asked why she didn't use this time to go and strengthen herself. Once again, our boy was taking down the monsters in that place. The time had already dropped to 31 minutes. As always, he kept himself anonymous so that no one from other servers would know who he was. He wanted more bosses, but he realized that would be greedy. Of course, the girls were still outside, excited that he had broken another record. 40 minutes later, he had left the dungeon in 10 minutes and Ling Ji asked if he had died. Everyone thought he had made some kind of mistake and ended up eliminated. But Ling Ji decided to check the ranking since he usually didn't fail like that, and she was shocked. Lu Chen had finished in 9 minutes and 32 seconds. The Korean players couldn't believe it, and everyone knew that record would be unbreakable. Lu Chen was the only one not too excited because he wanted to kill more secret bosses. He left disappointed, with everyone wondering why he wasn't happy. He noticed it was getting late and it was time to sell the gear he had received. But then the server announced that there would be double experience for 24 hours. He decided to sell the weaker equipment, but the problem was selling the level 15 blue gear. He decided to wait until tomorrow since by then, people would be at that level and understand its value. Besides, there were many people in need of those materials he had obtained. And as soon as he listed a set of 7, it was sold immediately. He didn't imagine that these items would sell so easily and started listing everything. Within minutes, he made another 500,000 coins. Now that he realized how much money he was making, he decided to change his plans. And he was back in the dungeon, killing monsters. Indeed, this tiger cavern was the perfect place. Suddenly, he received a call. It was the guy who saved him at the brokerage, saying he paid double the price, but he could only sell to them. He also warned that his identity seemed to have been leaked and asked if he wanted help hiding. He knew that with the amount of money he was making, his and his sister's lives could be in danger. So he asked for a place to hide, and Lin Hai said that was fine. He took off the helmet, and the guide next to him mentioned that even though Lu Chen was strong, they were screwed when the servers merged. Lin Hai agreed and said the kid was really their only hope, and they would have to rely on him no matter what. The next day, our boy woke up and had already made 2.34 million from total sales. Meanwhile, the Korean group was gathering. Their plan was to prevent Lu Chen from entering the Tiger Dungeon, so they would stay at the entrance. They organized a whole plan with the summoners and how they would do it. The people were excited because, despite his strength, they had a large group. With that, they made an announcement and called the rest of the server to join in. Obviously, people didn't like one person monopolizing everything, so they agreed. Others said no one could be that strong and keep hiding their name, so they had to reveal it. With that, all the guilds agreed to participate. However, Lu Chen was farming in another region and was already tired. He knew that many people were waiting for him in the cavern, so it was obvious he wouldn't go there. He decided to let his creatures farm in the forest while he rested nearby. In front of the cavern, everyone was waiting for the boy, but he didn't show up. The leader said that in the end their plan had worked since the guy wasn't leveling up. Meanwhile, the Korean server players started causing chaos. Ling Ji mentioned that this was happening everywhere, and no one was able to level up anymore. At that moment, she almost got hit from behind. Or rather, she wasn't careful enough because she did get hit and realized she couldn't farm either. Dear God, the server leader brought 400,000 players to help. Napoleon weeps in battle. At her house, Ling Ji wondered why he wasn't helping anyone. Our boy, in fact, was sleeping and had just woken up. Then he saw a bunch of messages on his system. He found out that his entire server was under attack. At that moment, he also received a call from his sister. He asked what happened, and she said she had also been beaten by players from another server and couldn't farm. She wanted to take advantage of the double experience event, but there wasn't any place left. Our boy said he would talk to his friend to sort everything out and get her some gear too. But his sister said it was impossible. As soon as she respawned, they killed her again and she couldn't even leave the spot. Lu Chen just told her to give him her exact location and he would send his friend. And he said those bastards would pay the price. The guys reported to the attack leader that someone was coming, but he was confident. It was our boy's guild, led by his 3 great friends who had helped him a lot. But they soon realized they didn't stand much chance either. However, Lenyu didn't want to give up because she was confident our boy would show up. And here he was, saying he was going to take care of this. As soon as they saw someone approaching, everyone got excited. The leader was already trembling, saying that the anonymous guy had arrived. He ordered the entire guild to attack, saying that with so many, there was no way he could win. But just like a flashback from Sword Art Online, no one could deal more than 1 point of damage to him. Our boy just stood there, not saying a word, until people started asking what was going on. The team's friends couldn't imagine he had such high defense. The leader wondered if this was the difference between someone who had divine beasts. But Lu Chen was tired of this and said it was time for them to pay the price for invading this server. And with one sweeping attack, he wiped out the leader's guild. In a second, almost everyone was on the ground and they didn't know what to do. But Lin just passed by, slicing through. He warned them there wouldn't be time for them to formulate any plan. Now the girls were happy, saying he had once again saved the server. He told everyone to gather all the fallen gear in one place. They were confused and wanted to take it since they had lost some of their own. But he said they would set a trap to really get revenge. The guys said that if that was the case, they would help, and he thanked them. Meanwhile, his sister was lying on the ground, unable to even respond. Until, of course, he approached and took down everyone there. She recognized him as the guy from before, but he was even stronger now. Lu Chen simply told her that she could keep all the items those guys dropped as it would compensate for what she lost. She asked if he really was a friend of her brother, and he confirmed it, telling her to thank him later. And now it was time for him to head back to that dungeon entrance. When he got there, the group had piled up all the dropped items. He even pulled out his sword and told them to notify all the servers, including the foreign ones, that there was a pile of items here for them. Obviously, people thought this was an exaggeration because there were enough items to equip an entire server. But Ling Ji said it was a great idea to really test these guys' strength. She then decided to start her own live stream, showing all the items and inviting everyone to come and get them. People saw the images and recognized the sword as Lu Chen's. And a while later, it finally started arriving. She turned to the protagonist and said it was up to him now. He just told everyone to grab the items and get out of there to avoid any risks. Then he stepped forward, saying he was going to take down the bastards who messed with his server. The guys charged at him, but this time, he was going to use everything he had. He easily decimated them. From above, the leader of the Korean server saw that they didn't stand a chance. But Lu Chen wanted to know why they were there to ruin the double experience event. However, the guy replied that he was only so arrogant because he had the attributes of a divine beast. Obviously, Lu Chen wasn't strong because of that, but he thought it was a good lie to spread. The guy said that no matter how many he killed, their server would still be stronger since they were disrupting the event here. Lu Chen said they'd better compensate his entire server or he'd make them pay the price. The guys replied that he was an idiot if he really thought they would apologize. Then our protagonist said that in 5 days he was sure they would apologize, and he killed them, saying they would soon understand. As soon as people returned to the game, items were falling everywhere and the girls were impressed. But he said it wasn't over yet, and he had things to take care of. Back home, he decided to settle the score with them once and for all tomorrow. 10 hours passed, and now he had invaded their server to get revenge. He knew that the Lost Garden of Eden was there, and this event was going to happen. So he located the same pillar on that server. And at that moment, he activated the event, and everyone was notified about the invasion. It was exactly the same as what happened on their server. They would have to destroy the 8 pillars, and the entire server would participate. People had no idea that it was actually him who activated this event, and they were eager to obtain a divine beast. But Lu Chen was going to stand by the pillar and not let anyone complete it. With no one to guide them, people were confused, trying to find where this Lost Garden mission began. Until, after much searching, they found some wolves. The leader told them to start live streaming, saying they should show the world how they would obtain this divine beast. And on the protagonist's server, the girls were worried that the guys would get stronger. They were all excited, saying they would soon return for revenge. But one of them asked why it seemed like someone was in front of the pillar. And that's when Liu Chen announced that to participate in this mission, they'd have to get past him first. Of course, everyone recognized him as anonymous and asked why he was there. But the leader said they didn't need to fear since the fog in that place would corrode his equipment. And with that, everyone charged at him, saying he didn't stand a chance. The poor guys had no idea that in reality, as that mist strengthened creatures, he was getting even stronger. People didn't understand why his damage seemed to have doubled. The leader insisted that no one retreat, but the players were being wiped out. The girls in the group were impressed, saying the boss was cool. An hour had passed and he was still there, single-handedly taking down everyone. The leader introduced someone and seemed to want to negotiate. But Liu Chen said the time hadn't come yet. The guy was confused, but Liu Chen said he'd only negotiate later. So the guy left saying he'd be back. Our boy left his dragon there, telling it to alert him if anything happened. Now things were much easier since the creatures had already taken over half the server, and the mist was only getting thicker. The main city itself was shrouded in fog and no one could farm. At that point, the official guild members of that server came and asked him to stop. But Liu Chen said the time hadn't come yet. The leader told him to stop being a sore winner and end it already. But Liu Chen simply said they weren't ashamed when they ganged up to kill everyone in his region. The president of the largest guild there asked what he wanted and our boy just told him to leave. They didn't have many options and decided to see if they could gather a group to take him down. And with that, Ling Ji did a live stream with the leaders of that server. They apologized, saying they would never do something like that again. In addition to delivering a list of items that our boy had requested. At the meeting, the guys were exhausted, not knowing how to end it, so their leader went to apologize. Liu Chen warned that the only apology he would accept would be the 4 divine beasts of this place. The guy wanted to negotiate, but Liu Chen said there would be no discussions. He then called his own server group. He was going to help them collect the divine beasts. After collecting everything, the people celebrated that he was finally leaving. Our boy got up at home. He was exhausted since he had to play the whole time for 2 days straight. His left leg was almost 100% recovered, but his right one still needed a few more levels. If that was the case, the only solution was to go back to the game and farm a bit more. Since he had accumulated a lot of points from the dungeon and all the fights, he decided to do what was most important. He upgraded the Legion's order, which allowed him to have more creatures. Now, not only could he summon one more, but also all the others were 25% stronger. He took advantage of this to equip everyone with the sets that were cheap from the other server. After 9 dungeons, it was time to start selling the rare items he had been gathering as people were starting to need them. He had over 42 swords and, as always, decided to auction them off since that's the most profitable way. He used the guild's name to make a mass announcement about the upcoming sale. People wanted to know if he would sell that double sword he always used. That night, he announced the start of yet another one of those auctions. And as usual, the prices kept rising. An extremely rare cape he had obtained sold for 81,000, and another set with a cloak sold for 100,000. He then decided to take advantage of the excitement to sell the sword he was using. People already guessed the price would be absurd, and within seconds, it was being sold for 210,000. A long time later, he finally sold everything. With all the items he got from the other server plus everything he had been farming in the dungeons, it amounted to $2 million. The boy is practically Neymar now, but most importantly, his leg was finally healed. He immediately wanted to buy a new house for his sister and show her how much he had recovered. He found it funny that she was working every day while he was about to buy her a house. A girl was trying to sell some houses, but an old man said they were too expensive. The other saleswoman laughed at her, saying she always tried to use her looks but never sold anything. Then our boy arrived and she was all sad. They looked at him and saw that he seemed poor, so you know what happens next. She approached and asked what type of house he was interested in. Our show-off immediately wanted a villa. He recognized her as a schoolmate named Xiaowei. She said she would present the house projects, but he said he wanted to see them in person. She asked if his car was outside, and he said he didn't have a car. The women started laughing, asking how it was possible for someone to want to buy a villa like that without even having a car. But the girl said he could hop on the motorcycle. On the way, he revealed that he was Liu Chen. She said she heard he was in a wheelchair, but he said he was already better. A little later, she thanked him for buying the house and asked if our boy liked any games. He said he played Empyrean and mentioned that maybe they would meet there. Man, that house purchase was so quick he's already back to farming. As he reached a new region, he went out to kill 1,000 banshees. From afar, he spotted a gigantic gate that seemed to lead to another map. In front of it was the soul of a girl saying she was miserable and needed help. He asked what the challenge was, and she said only one person could participate. His mission was to clear 500 souls after the gate, and the reward was the ancient heart from that mission earlier. Since it was a solo mission, it was perfect for him. As soon as he entered, he saw that there were several level 22 spirits, but that would only be a challenge for someone else. The only problem was that they were in large numbers, and his attacks used human skills that dealt a lot of damage. Even killing the first 2 creatures wasn't easy, but as always he was patient. If he could kill 2, he could kill 500. He waited for the souls to respawn, and as soon as the creatures reappeared, he returned to battle. 10 hours later, he finally completed the mission. He received the ancient heart and immediately asked to use it. However, the system said he would have to remove the human skin to activate it. So he turned back into a wolf, and the girl was even scared by the deformity. But he just ignored it and activated the item. His character advanced to 5-star quality, and now he had 500% more in all attributes. He was already excited, wondering if there were more missions in that region. He told the child to stop crying and quickly tell him what else needed to be done in that place. She didn't want to because she said he was too ugly. So he turned back into a human, and she said he would have to kill 3,000 resurrected spirits. Considering that he had to kill 2 at a time, he was daunted by the amount of time it would take. But he had no choice, so he said he would do it. After all, he was receiving the ancient items he needed. After killing more than 1,000 liches, he gained their talent, which reduced the defense of nearby enemies by 15%. Then he went on to hunt even more. With this talent, he could also attack from a distance, making him more efficient now. However, even with this advantage, it still took him 3 days to complete. He was somewhat disappointed that this place didn't drop a single piece of equipment. The only thing he was doing there was leveling up. That's when he noticed a strange structure nearby and wondered why there seemed to be so many monsters there. Amidst several stones was a legion of soldiers. There were many of those banshees gathered around a purple orb. They seemed to be participating in some kind of ritual. In front of them all was a level 27 boss called the Vanguard Leader. At that moment, Liu Chen was afraid the game would force him to fight that thing. The creature called upon the god of the undead, asking for the sacrifice to be accepted. It then struck the ground with its sword. The aura of everyone there began to glow. The boss began to disappear along with all the creatures. He decided not to get involved with that and returned to the girl, telling her he had completed the mission. His werewolf lineage advanced once again, in addition to the tiger talent that now allowed him to deal critical damage. He asked if the girl needed any more help, but she said she had already asked too much. The eater Liu Chen said it was no problem. She just needed to ask. For him, running into danger was his favorite activity. The mission he received was to stop the invocation that was happening. He needed to steal 5,000 mana points that were being generated by that formation. For this, he would receive 10 pills that would increase his mana by 10,000. Since this was an area he needed to improve, of course, he went immediately. He saw the formation and realized that the dark boss had not been summoned. So he approached the center and began to cultivate, which allowed him to steal mana. The problem was that the boss had gone for a walk and was now returning. Our guy started praying that the boss wouldn't notice he was standing there quietly stealing mana. Suddenly, when the boss approached, his sword began to glow. He felt something was wrong and started searching for what was happening. Our guide had stolen a good amount of mana and had already fooled. He then went to the girl and asked for another mission. That's when she asked him to kill Cannabis, the boss. That was too much, and he told her to find someone else. But then she explained that because he had stolen the mana from that place, the creature was now only a tenth as strong. When he killed the boss, the portal to Ragnarok, the dungeon with a major mission would be opened. He remembered that the quest he needed to complete indeed involved this so-called Ragnarok mission and agreed to accept it. The reward was to receive the ghost pet Xiaoman, which was a purple quality. Since it was something unique in the server, he imagined it would be quite valuable. Apparently, the girl was going to help him in the fight, so he asked what skills she had. But before she could answer, she flew off. Since he had no other choice, he decided to follow her. In the middle of the area, there was a ball of red energy. He asked if it activated the formation, but she told him not to touch it. He asked why, as she wondered if he didn't know about divine orbs. Those contained an immense amount of power, and if he touched it, you would be killed instantly. He said that the priority then would be to kill this cannabis guy for now. The knight was standing there resting. He told the girl to distract it while he attacked, but she warned that if she took even one hit, she would be destroyed. He then asked what she was even doing there. She repeated that the boss was 10 times weaker now and that she was even weaker than that. Chen understood and said he would do it only because it seemed profitable, and so he went for the creature. He unleashed a barrage of attacks that dealt 1,600 damage each. Considering the creature had 30,000 HP, this was going to be easy. However, suddenly it began to rise. The girl warned him to be careful because the boss was going to use a counterattack technique. Our guy was excited because if the boss had it, that meant he could potentially learn it too. He charged forward, ready to finish this quickly, but the boss unleashed the prepared slash. Our guy barely dodged it. If he had been hit, it would have definitely drained all his health. He took advantage of the time the boss took to recover to deal some more damage. Meanwhile, the girl kept giving him tips about the boss's upcoming moves. He was impressed that she really knew the boss's fighting style inside and out. At that moment, the boss raised his sword to end it. She warned him that the only option now was to run. The two of them would have to reach the entrance of the valley or die there. The explosion swept through the entire area, and Lu thanked her for being right once again. He wondered how other players would manage to beat this thing. 8 minutes passed. He was still dodging attacks and hadn't managed to finish it off. At that moment, the little girl opened her arms, emitting a golden light. All the energy he had spent seemed to be recovering, and he went in to deliver the final blow, slashing the boss with the tiger's strike. With that, the boss finally fell to the ground. Cannabis had been slain. He received a mystical rank technique called Rain Sword Conversion, as well as the key to the Gate of the Dead. The little girl appeared and thanked him for everything he had done. She then asked if she could continue to stay with him. Our hero agreed, saying it was fine, and received the unique purple quality pet, Xiaoman. He hadn't expected her to be the boss and asked to check her attributes. The biggest advantage she had was invincibility, as being a spirit meant no one could attack her. On top of that, she could possess some bodies and even provide buffs. He then asked what the key was for, and she explained that it was for a level 50 dungeon nearby. He remarked that if it was level 50, it was obviously not something he could do right now, and he inquired about the use of that fragment. She explained that these dungeon fragments could be synthesized into other essences. Sometime later, he was back in his so-called home. His inventory was full of items, and he had also reached level 19. Meanwhile, in the city, Langnuo was fighting against the former rank 1. She dodged his attack and struck him in the face. People were impressed by how much she had improved. The guy acknowledged that she wasn't bad, but he was tired of playing around. With that, he landed a blow right in the middle of her chest. But he didn't stop there. He followed up with a combo, trying to finish her off. The poor girl was defeated, and he apologized, saying she was still trash. He added that this fight proved her guild was really weak. Langnuo replied that it was fine to call her trash, but why involve her entire team? The guy said it was because he was the leader of his guild, and she was the leader of hers. She responded that she would never tarnish her guild's honor and would leave if that was the case. The guys doubted her and said they wanted to see her leave. She apologized to her friends, saying she didn't want everyone to be embarrassed because of her. However, someone appeared and asked when he allowed her to leave. Of course, this cheeky guy wasn't going to let the pretty girls leave the guild. Everyone was shocked since they hadn't seen him in a while. He asked if they were picking on the poor girl, and she apologized for making everyone embarrassed. But now, being all nice, he said it was his fault, so he would fix it. The former top 1 said that today they would finish off the protagonist or they would leave this server. He warned that the situation was very different from 10 days ago, and everyone had been getting stronger. Lu Chen said he would also leave if he lost and asked where they wanted to fight. Everyone was curious to see who would leave the server. The two guilds stood face to face outside the city. Everyone commented that the protagonist's guild didn't have many people. The guy opened his arms and said he would let anyone who wanted to run away leave now. However, Langnuo motivated everyone, saying they wouldn't give up. The friend told the protagonist that they would do their best, but our guy just replied for them not to worry. He was going to make it clear that no one should mess with his guild. People couldn't believe he was going against everyone alone. Annoyed that he was approaching alone, they rushed to finish him off. What they didn't know, of course, was that Lu had gotten much stronger after the spirit quest. From afar, people were watching the fight and were a bit uncertain if he would really win. The leader said that today the boy would disappear from the server, but our guy just said that was impossible. He then unleashed a double slash with his swords. The attack was an area attack, dealing over 1,000 damage to everyone it hit. The leader had never even hit that hard before and wondered how it was possible for someone to deal that much damage to everyone. But our guy didn't stop and began wiping out his guild. Before he could do anything, everyone in his guild was already on the ground, and the next second, he joined them. People didn't know he had such a powerful area of effectability, and the boy was ruthless, striking the bodies to ensure everyone died twice. He only found it strange that no one in his guild seemed to be cheering for him. But the truth was, they were wondering if this was really possible or if he was using some kind of hack. At least one thing was certain. No one would want to mess with their guild anymore. He then thought of a way to make the message even clearer. He went to that same tower where he had stopped at level 5 last time. He was easily passing through the first levels. This time, he decided to go much further so he wouldn't have to return there again. The first floors were being cleared in less than 10 seconds. Lin Ji commented that he reached the 5th floor in less than 13 seconds. People were just worried if he would really pass the 15th floor. However, Langnuo was willing to bet on our guy. On the 12th floor, it was the first time he didn't kill the enemies with a single hit, and sometime later he finally reached the 15th floor. Her friend said that everyone was suspecting he was using some kind of cheat, but the love-struck girl said that was impossible. He was just incredibly talented. A second later, he was on the 16th floor, and they celebrated, saying that now no one would attack their guild anymore. But now people wanted to know when he would actually stop, since he had already reached the 17th floor, and in the next second, he was on the 19th floor. He reached the 20th floor and easily defeated another opponent. However, he decided to pretend it was really difficult and left the tower. People were impressed but thought that the 20th floor must have had something truly terrifying. At that moment, he went on to take the guild challenge. It was the only way to obtain ascension crystals, and he knew that up to level 7, no one else would be able to do it. People were already giving up on the idea of ever becoming stronger than him. A while later, Langnuo was thanking him. He told them not to worry because, as their leader, he would help everyone. He would only keep the spirits and distribute the rest. Langnuo wanted to know why he was helping so many people like that. He said she didn't need to worry about it and should focus on leveling up her magic. He told her to send a friend request and that if anyone gave her trouble, she should call him. She was thrilled that the leader hadn't forgotten about her. Now Lu had a problem. His level was so high that he didn't know where to farm anymore. Meanwhile, everyone was gathering in front of the underground cave. People there were trying to organize some groups to do the dungeon, but Lu decided to enter alone to see if there was something secret in there. The creatures were extremely easy. Even the level 23 boss wasn't a challenge. It would only be worth it if you found something secret. Just like in the previous dungeon, if you finished the beginning too quickly, you unlock the secret part. With that, you receive a notification that the Abyssal Zombie King was approaching. 5 minutes later, the ground began to crack and the creature emerged from below. It was a level 30 diamond-ranked boss. Lu took 4,000 damage to his chest. Moreover, he was blinded for 3 seconds, lost physical defense and movement speed, and lost 3% of his maximum health per second for 10 seconds. Now he was really scared by the boss's strength. If it continued like this, there was no way he could win. He managed to dodge the next attack and realized that 4 hits would be enough to kill him. But he wasn't afraid since the boss was relatively slow, so he kept attacking while dodging. The problem was that the boss had a lot of defense and HP, and as soon as Lu dealt a bit of damage, the creature dove back underground. Lu Chen began to wonder if he would really die in this dungeon. Everyone received a notification that the area was temporarily paused until someone finished the secret boss. The outcome of this battle would determine whether they gained access to the second level of the dungeon. His sister was furious because she was almost at the boss, and now she would be kicked out. Her friend said it wasn't a big deal since it would unlock the second level, but she didn't care and wanted to fight the guy who was messing up her leveling. Until her friend obviously pointed out that there was only one person on the server who would go after that boss alone. She asked if it was that guy called Anonymous. Apparently, she still didn't know that the same guy who helps her is actually her brother, thanks to that incredible mask he wears. In the fight, Lu Chen was pounding the ground but couldn't deal damage to the boss. Even with the invisibility given by the ghost, he couldn't locate the creature. Suddenly, the boss emerged from the ground right in front of him. Since he was invisible, the boss couldn't see him. He took advantage of this, going behind the boss and striking the back of its neck. He kept doing this for 30 minutes straight until the creature was finally slain. He obtained a zombie mask and several dungeon items. He also found something quite interesting, a recruitment order for this dungeon. It gave him the qualification to recruit a zombie king. Along with that was a mask that reduced people's energy and speed, and the key he wanted that granted access to the dungeon's second level. He activated it, and everyone was impressed. This meant that the entire server could now level up faster. As soon as our guy came out, he was invisible, but his sister was standing there. Curious, he took a look at her and saw that her equipment was getting pretty strong. It seemed like she was finally learning how to play. He wanted to know what level she was and how strong she had become, so he gave her a little tap just to see how much damage it would cause. But it dealt a lot of damage because of the combos, filling her with poison. She started walking away and he told her to stay still or the poison would only increase the damage. But the poor girl collapsed. Our guy was shocked that he accidentally killed his own sister. Her friend, all confused, asked who had attacked her. He didn't want to reveal that it was him and was just relieved that she didn't drop any items. He then headed to another mountain. The key allowed him to open the next dungeon wherever he wanted, so he chose a place that was a bit more isolated. When he activated the item, a golden light shot up. This way, he ensured that he would also be the first to enter and finish this place. However, strangely, there didn't seem to be any monsters inside. It was actually a kind of personal dungeon that he owned. He could set an entry fee for that place and even choose the specific monsters and items to be available. He quickly realized that this was a way to make money without even having to play. He began spending a lot of currency to level up his dungeon to level 20. And besides that, he could also buy some creatures to make them available to everyone. With that, he organized the region, and it was time to open the business. A while later, some players who saw a laser went to the location and found the door. The people were surprised that it was owned by a player. Strangely, you could only enter alone. Those who streamed took the opportunity to showcase it. They showed everyone the new dungeon that had appeared, created by the famous I Am the Only Wild One. Since he set the creatures at a good level, many people were going there to farm, and he was consequently making money. The secret of his dungeon was that it dropped various items. However, each time you entered, it became more expensive. This made the greedy ones go back again and again to get likes on their videos, and helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers. Activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.